R2-D2. A pleasure to meet you. I am C-3PO Human Cyborg Relations. I beg your pardon, but what do you mean, naked? My parts are showing. My goodness.
It's been a long winter. Cold weather and unrelenting snowstorms really hindered my motivation to make new things or challenge myself in any meaningful ways. This was a celebratory warm weather project, an opportunity to test and share what's been on my mind for the many months that have since passed. The STL files for this build were modeled by Vec3D and were inspired by the Empire Strikes Back version of the character. A link to where these files can be purchased will be in the description, along with the materials that were used. So without further ado, let's start at the beginning. This project was the first of many things for me personally, since I recently made the decision to invest in a large format resin printer. Pushing that machine to its limits and getting my money's worth has been my top priority. That mindset is what fueled my decision to print entirely in resin, making this the largest resin print I've had the pleasure of working with. Printing the smaller pieces was business as usual. It was the two main head pieces where I ran into some trouble. The bigger you print, the harder it's going to be to wash and cure said print. This, of course, was something I failed to consider as I began printing larger props, which meant that my current wash and cure machines were in need of an upgrade. Admittedly, not much sanding needs to be done when working with resin. Having said that, it's never something that should be overlooked. I started with a pass of 120 grit, followed by 220 and 320. My go-to method for spot filling as of late has been a thick mixture of UV resin and baby powder. The ability to instantly cure and sand imperfections in quick succession may work wonders for those of you who are impatient. I, of course, am talking about myself here. To anyone familiar with my channel, you may recall that I was not overly fond of Seymour filler primer, and had a bad experience using it. In the past, I encountered runs and cracking, most certainly due to a heavy application on my part. I had a few cans left over, and decided to give it another chance, only this time making a conscious effort to be more conservative when applying it. I'm happy to say I had no issues this time around. After applying a few coats, the primer received a final wet sand of 320 and 400 grit, thus concluding the prep work that was done for this build. The main headpieces are held together by 10 by 2 mm magnets. Now seemed like the most appropriate time to install them. Resin prints are significantly heavier than other materials. As such, I made sure to use N52 neodymium magnets specifically. N52 magnets, while being a bit more pricey, are some of the strongest magnets on Earth. And in my case, I needed all the strength I could get. As I mentioned at the start, this project was the first of many things for me personally, most of which occurred when painting. This entire project was made possible by one paint alone, ULTRALUMEN, which, to quote the listing itself, is the final boss of chrome finishes. This is by far one of the most fascinating and versatile paints I've ever stumbled across. I personally prefer to spray it, but it's absolutely worth mentioning that you can rub, brush, or even dip your parts in ULTRALUMEN. There's no denying that the finish looks incredible, and the various means of applying it are a great addition, but what truly makes this paint so special is that it was designed from the ground up to be clear-coated without any consequence, no loss in shine or reflectivity. I feel it would be disingenuous of me to only speak about the pros of ULTRALUMEN and not its cons, which there are many. ULTRALUMEN in its natural state is extremely fragile. What you're seeing now is a test piece that I had painted months prior. As you can see, ULTRALUMEN can be wiped clean off with the stroke of a finger, which means that realistically, it needs a clear coat. More specifically, a 2K clear. 1K/rattle-can clear coats are not recommended and should be tested and used at your own risk. The instructions for ULTRALUMEN are extremely thorough and specific. There's a lot that can go wrong, and there's many words of caution listed throughout the prep and application process. I can't stress enough how important it is that you read through it in its entirety before using this product for yourself. If you have any questions in regards to using this paint, please do not hesitate to reach out to the manufacturer. They answered countless questions of mine in a detailed, timely manner. The Digital Armory's customer service across all their products have been amazing so far. Before we can apply ULTRALUMEN, we first need a glossy base coat, as pointed out in the instructions. I went ahead and applied 2 coats of 2K clear, specifically the Finish 1 FC720. You may be wondering why I'm clear coating a gray base coat in preparation for a chrome finish. After all, the best practice for a highly reflective chrome or metallic finish has always been a gloss black base coat, not gray. For lack of a better word, this paint is magic, and plays by its own rules. TDA actually recommends a gloss gray base coat as opposed to black, as it provides a more neutral chrome finish. An important thing to keep in mind when using ULTRALUMEN is that your first few coats will have a bit of a yellow tint to them. As you continue to add subsequent coats, the chrome will become cooler in tone. The goal assuming you're trying to achieve something that's neutral in color, is to try and land somewhere in the middle. In my case, since I'm aiming for a gold chrome finish anyways, I only applied a few light coats. My application was done at around 20 to 25 psi, which I realize now may have been too low. A higher air pressure is recommended, but the ideal range is currently unknown to me. Future testing will need to be done, so more on that later. I gave the chrome around 48 hours to dry. Do keep in mind that the finish is extremely fragile and should not be touched or wiped down until it is properly sealed. A gold chrome finish can be achieved by a number of different products and methods, examples of which are as follows. Firstly, you can apply a gold tint directly over a chrome base coat. Secondly, you can mix golden dye into your clear coat and apply that over a chrome finish, for a much more efficient two birds with one stone type approach. Lastly, while much more involved, there's electroplating, but I don't see myself taking this on anytime soon. Just figured I'd throw it out there as an option. Hendrik has an amazing tutorial on his process of electroplating a C-3PO head. A link to his video will be in the description for those interested in that process. I ended up using a Candy 2O color by Createx, specifically Tequila Yellow. Their Candy 2O line of paints are 100% transparent and contain zero pigment. They're instead made up of highly concentrated dyes. Because of that, they lack binders, which means they need to be mixed with a carrier in order to actually adhere to a surface. The carrier in question is Createx's 4050 Gloss Clear. I mix all three components 1-to-1, allowing them to sit for around 10 minutes to fully marinate. During the application, I set my air pressure to around 20 psi, and I adjusted the fluid on my spray gun to be about as low as it can go while still being able to push out paint. I did this in order to maximize control and build up the gold color slowly and evenly to my desired amount. It's been a full 24 hours since the gold tint was applied. The next step is one that I dreaded since the very beginning of this build, that being applying a final layer of 2K clear over the now gold-tinted ULTRALUMEN. The instructions for ULTRALUMEN recommend the use of a slow hardener for this step. For those who use standard or fast hardeners, an alternative mix ratio for the clear coat is suggested. Instead of using a standard 4-to-1 mix ratio, that being 4 parts clear to 1 part hardener, TDA recommends 8-1-1, which is 8 parts clear, 1 part hardener, and 1 part urethane reducer. The reason for this is to allow the metallic particles to relax, resulting in a more reflective finish. Mixing my clear coat in ways other than 4-to-1 was uncomfortable to say the least, and trying new things so far into this build wasn't exactly the smartest play on my part. Rest assured, the application was a success. However, I wish I would have practiced this entire process beforehand to spare myself some peace of mind. I wanted there to be some slight weathering, nothing too overbearing. So I went in with a black and brown acrylic wash, something akin to the likes of oil, and applied it to the areas that seemed most realistic. I then moved on to pastel chalks, grinding them down to a powder and mixing them with matte Mod Podge, which results in a textured, dirt-like buildup. Full transparency here, electronics are not my strong suit, especially when it pertains to prop making. In fact, that's the very reason why all of my videos to date don't feature electronics of any kind. I find them overwhelming and hard to implement sometimes. I'm trying to be better about challenging myself more, and pushing myself to make things I wouldn't normally make. When planning out the electronics for this build, I did my best to keep things as simple as possible for myself. The components I used are as follows: a 9V battery pack with a built-in on-off switch, a pack of 9V batteries, and finally, a 100-piece kit of pre-wired warm white LEDs. The first step was to glue each LED to the backside of the translucent iframes. A total of 6 LEDs will be needed for the eyes. The only wires to worry about were the positive and negative lines. The sheer amount of them was the troubling part. I stripped and twisted all of the positive wires into a single splice. Then did the same for the negative wires. The final step was soldering the positive and negative leads from the LEDs to the positive and negative leads of the 9V battery pack. As I've said ad nauseum, there were many firsts during this build, but I'd say there's one in particular that rises above them all. This build was the first time I went easy on myself. I allowed myself not to care about perfection, or being as close to screen accurate as humanly possible. I welcomed all imperfections with open arms, and embraced them. Surface debris, orange peel, scratches, scuffs. If you look close enough, find them you will. There is a certain level of jank and imperfection that comes to mind whenever I imagine props from the original trilogy. I wanted to channel a bit of that energy for a change, which made this project a huge breath of fresh air for me personally. I'm looking forward to what comes next. My only hope is that you are too. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.